Awesome. Welcome everyone for Novatr series second episode, and we have someone very special with us. Hi Saurabh, how are you?
Oh, hi, Vanshi. I'm good.
Awesome.
How are you?
Uh, yes, I'm good. Happy to see you on a Sunday morning, and thank you for making it for this discussion. So, I'll just quickly start by welcoming everyone. As you've read from today's title, how does one go from saying no to the booming IT industry, which every engineer at some point, goes through, to becoming a trailblazer in structural engineering? That's exactly the story we are going to be diving into today for today's Novator Stories. I'm Vipanchi from Novator, and at Novator, we're on a mission to empower professionals like you with the skills to create innovative and impactful futures. Through the Novator stories, we uncover the unique journeys of AEC leaders, their triumphs, challenges, and lessons learned for all of you guys to witness and learn from. Today, I'm thrilled to host Saurabh. While we've said our hellos, just a quick introduction for Saurabh, who's joined us today. He's a seasoned structural engineer and assistant general manager of design structures at DLF, one of India's leading real estate developers. With now a decade of experience designing and analyzing from residential, commercial to institutional projects, Saurabh has reshaped how we think about structural innovation. From his time as principal engineer at Rambol to his strong academic foundation from BITS Pilani, his journey is packed with insights and inspiration. So let's get ready to learn from Saurabh as we explore his career, the decisions that shaped his path, and how he continues to make an impact in the AC world. So, with that, formally, welcome Saurabh. I'm really excited to have you here today. And before we begin with definitely a lot to learn from you and a lot of questions about your journey. I just want everyone who's either listening in today or who's going to be listening to this video later on to, maybe drop in the chat or in the comments a moment where you have taken a bold career decision, because that's exactly what we're going to be talking today. It can be maybe about dropping a subject to choose one you love, or maybe even continuing in a field even when it seemed tough for you. So please do that. And with that, we'll begin with our discussion. So before,
Thank you,
yeah,
Vipanshi, for the kind words. I think you quite. I think I would even the things that you said were quite above par. So I didn't realize the way. As actually, you do not realize when you are actually on the journey, the impact it has on you or like others, or even how the career has shaped. So thanks for the kind words, and thanks for having me. Yeah, and we can take it further.
awesome. So as I said, as you know, we've had a chat before and love to learn about your journey and thought, we should definitely bring this to others. I would again say this is a conversation where I'm here to also learn from your journey and, have some key takeaways today. So with that, let's go back to the 18-year-old Saurabh. To understand what were your aspirations back then, what was sparking interest, and what even made you choose this path of civil engineering at that point. So maybe you can just take us through your headspace back then.
Yeah, so I think typically as it goes in an Indian family, one as it starts with his career, one is good in academics, he'll be mostly going to sciences, or even people opt for commerce as well. So I was pretty okay till 9th, 10th standard. I became bit of a serious student post 10th, and I was doing good in my plus two. So that was mostly. Though I was doing pretty much well, I was able to manage and crack few competitive exams that we have, namely in India for engineering and entrances, JEE, Triple E, all those things. So I was able to make through. It wasn't a thought through decision at that point that I'll go for civil engineering per se, right? The choices that I filled in to enroll in a for the enrollment, that basically shaped that. So it was pretty okay up till that end. But when I entered into college, certainly the courses that I enrolled for because of the curriculum in the civil engineering, specifically structural analysis, those were the subjects which actually like give have given shape to my actually interest in the field. I quite liking the specifically if we talk about the structural engineering. I have the structural analysis is one course which I have loved quite a lot. So that actually developed my interest towards it, and that has been the key ignite, I would say, is specifically towards it. Yeah.
Nice. So I mean, that's obviously relatable for everyone. I think every student in India who's, doing well, definitely doctor, engineer, becomes one of those paths that, is suggested. So, was there anyone in your family who was, from this background? And you had initially also talked about how you liked physics and maths as subjects. Is
Absolutely true.
something also which was like tying into this, and what was your perception about civil engineering? I know as an architect, I had no idea what architecture is. I just thought it was very cool looking at some nice movies.
Yeah. So I think in my close family there were not as many engineers. My grandfather used to be in railways, so he was an engineer there. So he used to work. But my father was in commerce field, so he was not from engineering background, so to say, or any even sciences background. But yeah, I certainly in my initial careers, specifically during my time when I was preparing for JEE, physics was one of the subject which I loved a lot. And yeah, that makes sense when you tied knots looking backwards, you can see that certainly those are the things that help me learn. I am quite intrigued towards structural, not even structure. Even if you go to to physics, you learn quite about mechanics, statics. You learn about how free body diagrams are drawn. So those things connect dot and the I would say the industries which are using those core skills the most are either civil engineering or mechanical engineering for that matter, or maybe you can go into aeronautics, all those industries where you are analyzing forces, you are looking how a particular matter would behave or how a particular material would behave. All those things are tying into these industry only. So among that, I think civil engineering is what mapped with me, and I went further and then did the specialization in structures. Yeah.
Got it, got it. And like even I think obviously you got through one of the top colleges, institutions in India, with Pilani. And how was that experience like? Was it easy? Was it tough? How was your entire college experience, and how did that also shape your thinking eventually?
So I think when you are during that path, it doesn't you don't feel that it's actually impacting you. But when you look back, it has actually shaped me in a very the confidence that I had at the start of the college and the end of the college was significantly different. I was able to express myself well. I was able to meet people almost uh, quite good aptitude amount of people come in with where they have cleared a good scale of, so they have basic good aptitude, and also they consume good amount of knowledge as well in the variety. So you when you are in that company, you itself start to grow. And not only that was visible in my knowledge, but also it was visible the way I was communicating to on various platforms. And I was able to right away jump onto a problem and say I can face this and I can provide. So that basically gave me a confidence to say, see, I knew things, I knew core skills which could help me, but with this it was actually helping me with from which I was able to confidently deliver those and say that I'll be able to manage it whatsoever be the problem. So yeah.
Got it. And in terms of, again, like during, I think from the engineering perspective, the first year is common, and then there are certain more specializations that happen. You can correct me over here.
Hmm.
But how was that like? And again, like when you entered, what were your seniors, telling you to pick up? What was some advice that you got? Can be some funny advice as well that, you remember.
Yeah, so I think as you will say in the current trend also, the mostly people are unlikely to go for core branches. So still that was the case there. Even institutes like IITs and BITS, even NITs, people still often try to drop out of core engineering branches. The reason for that, either they do not enroll or they even go with computer sciences, because the specifically when I was graduating out like 10 years back, those were the streams which are paying you higher. And still they are at some extent, but so the so the decision, mostly people would say that no, do never go for a core engineering. People, if I tell you in a fact itself,
Yeah.
from my batch of 40 to 45 people, I think none of the engineering or are in the same domain or are working in the core jobs. They either moved out either to finance role, data analytics, or switched to IT because they seemed a bit attractive, or they could be more attractive in terms of the initial path that they could take you to. So that's one thing. But certainly, specifically in structures or in civil, my specialization was structures. My core interest was in structures, so I certainly pursued to it and kept on it. And so that's what actually. And I've never right away faced that problem where I wanted to always at times make a decision where I want to quit this, because I've always wanted to continue the same path because I was driven by my like intrigueness to for the subject itself. So
Yeah.
I think that's what actually has helped me.
Yeah, I think honestly, like when you say it, it sounds very easy, right? You will love something and you do it. But obviously, I think a lot of us, especially towards our, fourth year, fifth year, suddenly like from a society perspective also, you start getting questioned around acha, what is, people start comparing their titles, from a growth perspective, things are compared. And that can often create this feeling of FOMO, of that okay, maybe should I be doing something else, the other person seems to be having it easier, suddenly new opportunities have opened. How do you, like, at that point also, like as a young professional, how do you deal with that from one mental perspective, but also how did you view it from a long term perspective?
So see, specifically in any core engineering branch, you need to have your basics correct first. And to get those basics correct first, you will have to spend some time at the learning of core skill or the subject itself. So that could take few years, 3, 4 years. After that, you will start to take the confidence. Further, what is the case? The things that we learn in core branches, specifically in academics, those are not shaping you correctly to face the industry right away. So you need some time, 3, 4 years, where you actually are able in a position that you can take decisions. You are in a situation where you have learned the subject in regard to industry. So that time will take, as mostly we say that every हर हुनर एक समय मांगता है, तो वो एक time रहना चाहिए. You'll have to spend some time with the subject, and once you have spent that time, no, so you have to be consistent, you need to be persistent during that pass, and you need to be patient. Let you cannot right away see that why am I not seeing the results. Results needs to be seen inside in your knowledge. Once those are seen, then certainly you will feel confident delivering the solution, and accordingly like outside also world also will try to acknowledge it sooner or later.
Got it.
Whereas that is not the case. Yeah, if I can use it, if whereas that is not the case, specifically when you are a computer science student or any because there the stakes, the industry itself is bit of a nascent stage. So people are right away learning. Still, you need to learn the basic subject, but it is not like that you will have to spend slightly longer time learning the subjects.
Got it, got it. And two things that you said. One, you were talking about like a very interesting number actually, like out of a batch of 40, the number of people who continued in core versus IT, that itself was very,
Yeah.
stark in terms of contrast. Do you, like, now when you look back, do you think that eventually everyone landed up in a similar space and with a similar expertise? How has been like looking back at the overall trajectory?
Yeah, I think that's the case. When so mostly the number that I quoted is specifically people who are pursuing civil engineering in India. There are people who
Okay.
pursued civil engineering, but they mostly moved out. So there were like 2, 3 more people who have continued in civil engineering. Rest has actually dropped out of the core branches, and mostly that's the case you will find in any of the tier 1 colleges as well, even IITs as well. Mostly people drop out of it, and the reason for that, and when you look back, I think yeah, if you keep at it at anything. I think let's say even if I learned civil engineering and I wanted to pursue, let's say something quite creative or nothing related to tech.
Yeah.
If I keep at it for 5, 6 years, I feel that the results will come out. So you need to be at it. That's what I really go about it. So even it's not specifically. in regard to core engineering. But even if you, let's say, develop out and even switch careers, and if you want to do something and you keep doing it at even for 5 6 years, it will eventually pay off. And yeah, and when I look back, certainly it makes sense. It doesn't feel any different. Yeah.
Got it. Awesome. And the second beautiful thing that you said about how, it takes time to, at the end of the day, grow skill, any skill. If you want to, there's that, I remember 10,000 hours needed to, become an expert. That is, there are a few data points on education with talk about how, at the end of the day, it's practice that makes someone, develop those skills. I want to also talk about the other part that you mentioned on how you felt a certain gap between obviously certain the academic training versus obviously when you start practicing it. If through examples you can maybe give some incidents where you felt those gaps on and how did you go about then improving your skills?
Yeah, I think very one thing, good thing that you mapped that it takes time, and that 10,000 hour analogy that we have. Certainly, but those 10,000 hours that one is spending, it has to be very well spent. You cannot be doing the same sort of thing multiple times. So if you want to learn, you need to push your the creative muscle. You need to push yourself to learn more things. So if you spend those 10,000 hours learning those things, certainly it will lead to that part. Yeah, but then coming on to the differences that I had from the academics to the industry. Certainly, I felt when I was just starting up, I felt like there were things which I was not able to right away gaps. Even when you are in your undergrad, you are not right away taught to study the drawings with which the construction is happening. So those kind of exposure I feel is certainly missing in our like academia that we have. Certainly, the courses needs to be more industry oriented. Still, we learn the subjects like typically strength of materials, specifically in my domain, structural analysis. You learn about concrete design, steel design, but you learn all those things in silos. What is essentially needed is to connect that so that you are essentially able to deliver as an output solution to the world. World doesn't need your individual packages. You need to accumulate that knowledge in a form that it is viable economically, and it is serving a purpose in the world. So that's what is I feel is certainly missing. And also the courses doesn't give you a real life touch, where which is basically this is book, this is theory, and when it goes to practical, how is actually happening. So that's I feel is certainly missing. But you learn those things at the job, I believe.
Got it. I remember, once when we were talking, you gave a very interesting example of how, like, at the end of the day, if you are doing calculations for a certain structure, let's say a simple residential example, how otherwise from a theoretical perspective, it would be chapter A. Let's understand about beams, how to do the, let's say,
Yes.
calculations. Then one would be around foundation, chapter 2. But at the end of the day, when you're doing it for a project, it's about the entire, structure and how it stands. I thought that was a very interesting
Yeah.
example.
Yeah, absolutely the same similar example as I drew your attention, where you are learning steel or concrete specifically. Let's say if we try to intuitively understand what our subject is delivering to the world. So specifically, you need to understand how the load path is typically in a building, and how the loads are being grounded, right? So let's say I'm sitting on this chair. The load from my chair goes to the floor plate, which is, let's say, the concrete slab. People have learned how to design concrete slabs. Then those are transferred to the supporting beams, then to the columns. That's the typical load path. If you try to analyze the same for different loads, like how the seismic loads are getting to the building, how the wind loads are getting to the building, and then how those are being grounded.
Hmm.
Those clarity doesn't, I feel, come from the undergrad programs that we have typically. Maybe the postgrad program can help you doing that, but undergrad programs that you learn things in silos, and the real life application that you need to have, where you are right away delivering a solution to a real world problem. That is, I feel, is certainly is still at a is lacking.
Got it. Got it. I think definitely, I mean, we can all relate to that at some point or the other across different subjects, not just, engineering when we do compare that. I do feel though, at the end of the day, it is it's a there's another aspect which talks about 70-20-10, like how 70% is what you do on the job through the practice and learning. 20% is through watching your mentors, mimicking certain things, like how we have a habit of taking up, okay, this is how my senior is creating these drawings, I would want to mimic that to a certain extent, or talking about something. And 10% is actually the theory and the topics. So I think all of this eventually does tie into the fact that it is about how you end up implementing and putting those skills across. And with that, another part becomes, now let's say this was the college experience, what you were feeling, and how you were consistently very certain that you want to take a certain path. The other thing is that now let's skip to the part where you're now entering the job market. You are towards your, let's say your fifth year, fourth year, final placements time. And then now you've stepped into your first job. What was your professional experience like? How was that transition like? And if you could maybe talk us through your professional experience in the first few years.
Yeah, so I think specifically in structural engineering, the first few years could be okay. If let's say if you're working in specifically with Indian companies, the work culture is slightly okay. It's at par only. It's not that high, so you have to compromise bit on a work-life balance, those things. And the learning even can be on your own also. You at times you are push yourself on your own. People around you might not right away will be able to support you or support you. So you need to learn that. But I was lucky enough to have those mentors and people around me who can right away tell me that how to go further, how to like fill your knowledge gaps, the things that I don't know, how do I start doing about that. But certainly, as at those times, I certainly felt a need as if there was someone who could tell me that what is the career path is going to be specifically if I'm pursuing this, and what are the things that I need to know, what are the structural codes I need to learn, how would I refine my learning about structures itself, be it buildings, be it bridges, how those are, and which stream should I go about it. Even in structures also, you can either go with buildings, you can go with roads, bridges. How do you do about it? So even that thinking is also I felt was I certainly felt the need of. And yeah, that's mostly the has been the need to actually deliver back to the community when it's needed. Yeah.
Got it. And you also talked about an interesting point wherein the first a very challenging project around precast that came your way, and that time there wasn't a very big specialization or market it was developing within India. I thought that was a very interesting point. If you could
Yeah.
share how you got that challenge, how you ended up learning these new subjects, and also for anyone who does not know, if you could simplify these subjects as well.
Yeah, so I think in my overall career journey, I think I would say there have been two things which have helped me, two subjects specifically. I would say uh, to learn precast concrete structures, and also then to learn BIM. I think I didn't know much about precast up until till 3-4 years of my career. I was working in typically concrete structures mostly, and some steel buildings I had done, but not more than that. So I when I started learning about precast, how it happened for me. First of all, what exactly specifically precast? I think most of the people are still aware, but if somebody is not, I can explain. So precast structures are something which you right away do not build entirely on site. You break them into individual modules. So like the walls, the beams, the columns can are mostly built separately on a plant, right? Thereby, you are saving time to cast them together, like on parallel timing, and then you bring those elements to the site, you assemble them, you erect them. So that's the typical way of uh, doing a precast construction typically. What different you are doing, you're not casting, you're not waiting for curing time of concrete of 15 to 20 days where it cures and the next level being built up. You basically get those elements precasted and assembled. So you're saving time to actually do the curing of concrete. So that's the advantage with precast that you have. and that's the typical precast structure that you have. Now, for me, how did that happen? I actually it was quite coincident that there was a company that I was working with. They right away was doing some precast project based out of in India. The mentors that I had with me was they already had that knowledge of precast, and they had some repository also. They had done some precast project, but not all to up to that extent, or maybe not in this geographies.
Hmm.
So even I got that chance where uh, I was able to do those structures and also refine my thinking parallelly by reading up some research papers on precast, how the connections behave. Because precast is certainly very different when we are doing it in a seismic prone country and in a country where seismicity is very low. So the connections are very different. You need to read up a lot of because still the industry is forming. Though still we have quite good way of doing connections in precast in the way we do things at site, specifically on a precast project. So that actually helped me, and I was quite lucky to be on a project where I'm not only working but also parallelly learning. So that is one thing. And the next thing which I say has helped me and actually opened my roles to specifically to a company to multinational companies like Rambol, which I've worked earlier with, or if any other company. So is basically BIM. If you know BIM, you are able to do things properly. First of all, it is need of the hour, and it is being done in almost every project that we are basically delivering now. But further to say, how do you learn those skills is also needed. So for that also, that happened with me on job only, and there also I would say that I was lucky enough to implement the same thing on a live project. So yeah, that's mostly two things which I feel has given my career path an escalation which was needed.
Got it. And in terms of like, obviously, I think when you were also learning about it, as you said, it was entirely new. What were the parts in terms of the projects where you ended up implementing? How was that process like? And for you also, how did the scope of the term grow in a way? Because again, as we know, it starts from a modeling perspective, but there is so much more as part of the BIM processes that are part of like the current design analysis side of the structural design as well.
Yeah, so certainly, so not only in regard to learning the subject, but you start to integrate, specifically where the people still even the industry or even the where people are learning, they're right away taking the tool as a tool and learning that as a software. They're not right away able to link that with the real world problem, and I think that's the next thing that we are facing. People have started to learn softwares like Revit, or even if we go with the structural analysis and design softwares like ETABS uh, and Robot and any other software for that matter, they've started to learn the softwares. They are able to do things, but right away, the real life implication of it and how it is being done at the site, or how is it actually physically is those two integration is still I feel is missing. And yeah, if you are in a mentorship of a person who has actually done that, so you are able to do that. Otherwise, you look that thing as a tool itself, which is right away giving a solution out of it, which might not be a constructionally viable or a viable solution.
Got it. Is there any project, Saurabh, wherein, like apart from, obviously the precast project where you were researching and implementing, which was, challenging or opened up again a new perspective or love for the subject?
So specifically, I would say the projects which we were working on. I think in regard to BIM, if I ask, I say we were when I was working with Intech, we delivered multiple BIM projects for doing the reinforcement modeling in Tekla, and also we were using Revit also during that time. The projects were mostly done for M3M, doing the rebar modeling. So those projects actually refined that how this is also the way we can do. Even up to that extent, we can LOD 300 model, 400 model can also be created where you are right away modeling things uh, in BIM itself in Tekla software, and right away delivering those bar bending schedules at site and how those are being implemented. So those things actually helped. Those were some projects which I could say. Coming on to technically challenging, I think the project which was done with my home's co-op at the precast building, 43 story. precast building that we had there. I was working on that project, and that was quite challenging in that regard to deliver. That was quite a large scale of a project, and even the shop drawings that we were doing were basically being done from our end only. Even the production of the elements were being done at so there was a lot of challenging project in that regard, in regard to designing also, and in regard to how it was basically being executed. Yeah.
Got it. And these challenges, did you ever, at any point, have any lose or question anything, or were these challenges actually making you grow and love this field further?
So I think if you, I would say if you are not able to find these challenges
Yeah.
in the current scenario, I think you are on a wrong path. So you need to have these challenges with you, and if everything is going smooth, then certainly it is not going smooth. It will end up you will end up on a road which is going to like end to a dead end. So I think better face challenges, have those things like I think if you do not try, no, you will not be able to grow yourself in regard to learning, so that you need to have.
Awesome. I think, yeah, that's a lovely thought to take away. So for everyone who is relaxing today on a Sunday needs to probably start taking some challenges.
Yeah, certainly, I'm not sure like how people come about it, but mostly I'm not saying that right away go and hustle all the time.
Yeah.
But certainly take yourself out of that comfort zone. If you have, so see, in my case also, if I had thought that, see, I'm not sure how this specific company they are starting with precast, whether that'll be okay or not. They don't have much projects. How can I? So if I have had thought that thing like can I even try? So you wouldn't try. So take those chances early on when the stakes are low. If you don't take those chances at the early of your career, do that. And also it gives you confidence that you have that quality in with you that you'll be able to make through of any situation. So certainly go about it, try those things. If you don't try, and let's say if you're trying something and you have gone with a straight career, let's say till 8 9 years, and if you are not dabble any time, then you'll always feel that the inertia holding you back, that no, see, I don't have that but if you have built that muscle to try new things, to put yourself in a situation where you are very anxious for a brief moment, but that day of anxiety of the or that day or two of an anxiety or a week of anxiety will make you a better person in all sense, I believe.
Awesome. Of course, I mean, I think everything in moderation makes you go
Mhm.
the right way. Like you
Mhm.
said, like those moments of, questioning, of saying, okay, do I know this? A bit out of your comfort zone. Thank you for saying that. I think
Mhm.
definitely something each one of us should think about, and a great way to even start this year, I guess, putting this benchmark in place. Coming back to something that you have been also doing apart from your technical expertise and taking on these challenges is the content creation, in terms of writing out, putting out educational articles, etc., around what you have been learning. Would love to understand more about that. How did that thought come? Is it that your challenges weren't enough, so you wanted to do one more thing?
So it was not like that. I think in that I feel is needed for even any industry. When we see how does it the when I handled the problem when I was starting in my career back in like around a decade back. So I certainly felt that if somebody could explain me what his project was and how what the things that he was able to do as a structural engineer. So let's say if I have that information, if I had that information 10 years back, I was able to maybe make an informed decision. I was able to understand more. I was able. I would have been able to. I would have been able to connect dots and see where I need to work, right? But that was not there. So this uh, form of creating content or even writing a technical blog post was
Yeah.
there even when I was in 3 4 years in my career. I certainly thought that I will write whatever things that I'm learning. And I think specifically it happens for every domain, not specifically core. Whenever you're working, no, you are able to learn, like confine your thoughts, or you're able to comprehend your thoughts in a way so that it becomes like a good learning
Yeah.
small article or a paper for everyone. So I did that in 2017, but I didn't have that much of a bandwidth or knowledge that I'd accumulated, right? But when I was able to face those challenges, those things were forming up. And then eventually, back in 2022, I take that plunge that why not I start right. I had started those things on a separate blog, but then I thought why not right away start that on LinkedIn? It seems like a good platform to write. And with that, I took that, and I think I feel every professional who's doing that should do that, because the other thing is it refines your thinking as well. It refines your thinking when you are right away taking that subject and reflecting it back that this is what I did and this is the theoretical implication of that. And when you have spent good amount of time, a good summary of the entire thing comes up. It doesn't need to be all bookish thing that you are right away writing. Just try to relate the uh, constructability, the realization to the actual formulas that you have been learning. And I wouldn't say that I am right away an expert on that, because people can right away question you if you're writing something on LinkedIn as an opinion in a domain where it is considered to be an expert. If you're writing something, so you do not consider yourself an expert, you are learning right away. If you go with a quote of Sigmund Freud, if you want to learn something, teach it, right? If you want to master something, if you want to master something, teach it. So the thing is, if you want to master something, no, you need to teach it so that it refines your thinking itself, the way you know about the subject. So the idea is, I am not an authority where I'm right away posting that this is the knowledge that you consume. The things that I'm writing is basically can be collectively consumed by the community which I am from, and then we can have a healthy discussion. So that is the idea of doing that.
Got it. Actually, that's interesting because it's like every day. I mean, obviously, a lot of us have learnings, you're doing projects, just putting that together. If it's a personal documentation, documentation is a great habit to have as a professional. The second is also the mentoring and the, putting your opinions out there. One of the things I do want to talk about is that all of us, I think at some point have considered, okay, let's, write something, especially in this age of social media where we're putting out our stuff. But it's often, like a lot of us feel scared to be judged because as much as social media has opened this platform, opinions are out there. So how did you, get over that fear of being judged? Like you said, I'm not a expert. How did you do that?
So see, if I right away, people do that as well. People start to right away start
Hmm.
putting content out when even they have just started work. So I
Yeah.
mean, think that doesn't make sense. That even doesn't make sense. Try to have a knowledge bit refined, and even if you are putting content, then write in a sense that this is the bookish knowledge, and I am yet to feel their experience, and the anyone who has more experience can contribute. So even any of the posts that I had done, I think recently I've been posting bit light, but earlier when I was posting bit low, so I even used to write that this is my opinion, or like this is a small post on this one. Any recommendation or suggestions are welcome. And the idea is this only:
Yeah.
never go with an entitlement that this is my standpoint and this is how I understand it and this has to be correct. If you
Hmm.
try to entitle yourself that this is my point and I always need to like defend it even if I'm wrong. Let's say if somebody commented back that this is not correct, you need to understand their perspective and admit that you could be wrong. See, if you then the learning is not happening. If I'm right away posting and saying that this is the authority and I'm this is my standpoint, this is my understanding, and this is how it should be, then it is if you're not admitting that at times you can be wrong and there can be different interpretation, or even if not even wrong, there can be different interpretation of a thing. So let that happen, right? And I think I had built that confidence over the years, and also I let my guard down on that yeah, well, let people just, there's no problem. I think I had that in different aspect of my life, but then eventually I developed in my profession as well.
Got it. And from, again, your professional journey has also been very interesting, from post graduation, then in tech, Intra was one of the companies that you worked for, then over to Rambol and then DLF. Any place wherein, this content creation A help, and second, how did how did you sort of map out this journey for you? Was it again something that you planned, or was it something that, as the opportunities kept presenting, you were making the most of it? And how does one even think of this career path?
So, see, specifically, there is not right away not a link as such that how is it helping you. But first of all, I would say if you have a thought and you right away want to put, you start about it. And certainly, I would say in this current age, content creation of any form is helping. But specifically, if you're a technical person, just
Yeah.
try to put your thoughts out. And certainly, content creation will give you an eccentric return, as people say. The reason for that is you are visible to multiple people, right? So you can collaborate and accordingly try to have something which is slightly linked on that path. So that's one thing. So certainly go about it if you have a thought and if you feel that there is something that one needs to contribute to the world or a unique perspective. Certainly go about it, write it, and see how's it coming along. Don't go with the numbers of typical brands that you need to achieve certain followers, likes, and all those things. Just see the way when you posted, you learned something, you met three more people, you learned about them. Then the thing that you posted earlier, has your thinking changed on that topic? And were you able to accept it? So those things is actually you need to go about it. Yeah. Yeah.
Got it. And in terms of, just definitely, when you look back at your career trajectory, what kind of advice would you give to someone who's, let's say, at a point where they are starting their journey in core engineering, and how should they go about planning their career?
Yeah, yeah, but I think though I could give advice at this stage, but I feel that yeah, but I think there are more experienced people. But still, if I had to give in, because I'm yet to I'll there are many more years to go, which I when I can consider myself an experienced professional, which is giving the so keeping that, I would say if one is starting right away, I'd say start to explore more, make mistakes, try to go in a way that try to learn, try to fill in other shoes, specifically which the people which are above you. I always used to feel this way that let's say if you're if you don't have your managers around, try to fill in their responsibilities. You'll learn more. So apart after doing your job, first of all, so do the things properly, and then try to fill in their shoes, see how they are performing, how they are doing. And I think I'm not every manager is like that, but certainly there are multiple things that you will feel from your manager if they are how they are doing things, how their foresight works, how right away they are able to foresee things if it's any something that is coming up, and how they are prepared for those. So I think there you need to learn about that. That's one thing. And also whenever a chance come, be it on any aspect, be it technical or anything, that any team building activity that is happening in your corporate, jump in, take those chances. When you have time, try to like maximize your output from the time that you have. Try to already book your things that I'm already involved in this. Go ahead, say yes to things that you can do, and yeah, at least you'll be able to do at least 80% of them, and then it will make more sense. So be proactive.
Understood. I think in terms of from, sort of how do you put yourself out there, for sure. The other part that I did want to, discuss a bit with you today is around just how the market and the industry is evolving as well. What are your perspectives about, let's say compared to 10 years back to now, to maybe where you see it going, any thoughts on that, and what are you noticing?
I think certainly, specifically construction, the tech is going to be there. It is catching up, though specifically in India, it's taking bit of a, it will take bit of a time. But specifically, we talk about projects happening overseas, the tech is quite holding up. So we need to even the professionals needs to accordingly learn those skills parallelly, right? And even in regard to companies, how tech can help. Where right away we have seen fintech, ed tech, but I think the tech still needs to hold up in regard to construction. We are there specifically projects which are being done overseas, but in India, I think it's still happening. So still need to have. In regard to as a professional, the
Yeah.
things that you need to have specifically in my domain, I would say computational design is one thing where structural engineering architects already knew about computational design. Even in regard to structural engineering, computational design is quite getting aggressively. How it is helping do mundane tasks being automated, doing complex geometries being formed, and how it can be integrated is still in the nascent stage. If a person develops a core skill there, there is a certainly, I would say, a white spot there, and we can there can be things built out of there right away. That's one thing. Then there are new construction technologies like precast is one I talked about. There is slightly more advanced, which is PPVC, which you right away build the entire module rather than building individual system. You and build the entire module and go take that module at the site. The faster erection and the assembly at the site. That is one thing. Timber structures are again picking up prominence, specifically countries like ours as well. So those are also few things which are forming up. And then certainly there is complex ideas in regard to structural engineering, be it performance-based design, and how like you designing the structures which are right away slightly different from codal approaches, slightly advanced structural engineering are certainly picking up. So,
Got it. And apart from that, what I also, understand is that infrastructure, again, there is a lot of opportunities coming over there.
yeah.
There's obviously real estate side of things, the infra side of things. Within that also, where do you see some key growth opportunities on the infrastructure side?
See, there, my point of view would be mostly from the outsider only because I'm not from the infra part. But certainly, government spending has scaled up. They have
Yeah.
in the last budget also, and maybe we could hear more in the coming budget that we have. That the infrastructure spending has been spent quite aggressively. So it certainly it has created multiple projects, specifically airports, multiple being done. There you have the opportunity to actually implement BIM, do complex structural designs, and people need to learn about those skills as well. Yeah, yeah.
Got it. And currently, again, like there's a lot of outsourcing that happens, especially like from India for a lot of projects. Um, what what is the trend on that? Do you see it growing further, especially in civil and structures, or any trends again from where you can see things?
Yeah, I think it has grown the last 5, 6 years for most of the companies have now it has reached to a stage where I wouldn't say it's a plateau, but it's a slow growth there. Uh, what essentially is changing there as IT used to be an outsourced thing, right? People
Yeah.
used to outsource a lot of IT stuff. So the things that we used to mostly get is like a back-end work.
Hmm.
But in structural engineering, in some cases, some companies are still giving those, I would say, uh, not right away quality work, but more of a laborious work. That trend is basically being changed now. People are right, like now, India is being considered as a knowledge repository or a knowledge-driven country where complex solutions are being sent right away only to have manpower at a lower rate. So that is the trend that is being changed. Certainly, there have been some companies, some smaller companies overseas who have opened their offices right now in India. They are opening multiple offices. That is happening. But also, we are in that stage also where the kind of work that is being sent for outsourcing is also changing now, which gives us more opportunities
That
to
I
learn as
I
well.
mean that's honestly like one is obviously looking at it from the number of opportunities, but the fact that you talk even about the kind of job, I think that's very like I personally feel very excited to hear about that because that just I mean again like I think there are some brilliant people here and just giving that opportunity and hopefully a time when not many people are going abroad, for a lot of things. But in India, there's those opportunities are coming up, and merging that with the kind of development that's also happening. So definitely a great sign of how the next decade or so could turn up. Also a great indicator that from a core field perspective, also the opportunities, the focus is going to definitely come back to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Awesome. So with that, I think the other part that I do want to definitely talk about is, again, Saurabh has been one of Novator's, key mentors at the programs that we have. I just want to quickly touch upon, what inspired you to mentor. And I know you've been doing that since before, but what inspires you to mentor? If there has been some incident that, made you say that, okay, this is something that I really enjoy, something that a student said or anything that happened. And apart from that, just if you could also share a bit about your journey uh, mentoring students here.
Yeah, so certainly, I think why did I why do I do it specifically in regard to content creation also? So it really for to actually help back or to also provide a support to people who have started to learn specific thing,
Yeah,
anything specifically related to domain or BIM for that matter. That was the core insight. Also, it refines my understanding also of the subject in
yeah,
every aspect. So that is the core idea for it. How and it really feels great at times when people come back and post and comment to you that on LinkedIn, or even they reach out that yeah, it was really great and it actually helped me on this subject. So that has certainly been the ignite factor for that. And it for me it has been certainly fabulous. You get to meet different sort of people around for networking also, and even the mentors that we have is out of quite a variety. So even those contact has been quite good and help you network better. And needless to say that certainly as you try to multiple times do the same things, it refines your thinking. It refines your it refines your depth to the
mm,
subject. And when you are faced with a curious mind of a student, which they give us a unique question which you have not thought of, or a unique perspective, your understanding also collectively improves. That's what I would say has been the uh,
and in terms of giving any advice to any student who's maybe starting to learn this subject, with or without Novator, that's fine. But anyone who's starting to learn BIM, what would be your, again, like a certain advice that you would give in terms of how to go about it um, as a learning?
Yeah, so I think they need to be a bit curious. Specifically, learning BIM won't be that difficult if they are able to find a good mentor or a good thing to work upon it. Just keep at it. If they try to connect dots from learning the software and a real life problem, they will be able to make a good sense of it. In regard to structural engineering, if we are saying it could take slightly more time because it takes time to consume the amount of codes, the calculations, all those things you're doing, then try to refine your thinking. So that could take more time. But if you're doing BIM, if you just keep following a regular path, you should be able to make senses. But again, try to question how it is linked to a real life problem. That's
Got it.
that.
And for everyone with Novator, how have you been engaged with us, or what is the part of the program that you are, teaching here?
Yeah, so it's mostly BIM for civil that I mostly do with Novator, and specifically in that module we have I think module foundation module that is specifically focused on Revit structural modeling is what basically we I have been taking, and yeah, it's certainly quite comprehensive curriculum there that we have. So yeah, that has actually helped.
Got it. Awesome. Thank you. And with that, what we'll do is we'll just enter a quick questioning discussion, next 5 minutes. So these are some questions that, people from the community, our learners, etc., have also shared. So I would just request maybe you can answer it in one word or two words max.
Okay.
So this is going to be a bit challenging. Um,
Is it
Awesome.
like a rapid fire also?
Yes.
Okay, okay, okay.
So the first question is, what's one piece of advice you would give to aspiring engineers?
Uh, Try as much as you can. Be proactive.
What's your superpower as Saurabh?
I am persistent.
Awesome. Build a better tomorrow, a picture that comes to your mind.
Uh, a sustainable society, sustainable future for specifically the word.
Yeah, awesome. AAC for you is,
Uh, Industry which is uh, nascent but still growing. Yeah, growing.
yeah. And if you were starting your career today, what would you focus on first?
Uh, Develop a base and learn new things.
Got it. And lastly, one resource or one content creator you cannot live without.
Mm, okay. I think I wouldn't say there are multiple, so I can name a few. So I think in regard to finance or something, I follow Akshat. In regard to structure, I follow Timo, and there are a few more others. So it's like for structure, there are a variety of similar content creator that I have. Yeah,
Yeah, and I'm sure like everyone who's been listening in or will listen to will definitely follow you as well. From
certainly,
technical insights that you share and talk
certainly, yeah,
about your learnings. So
yeah.
definitely that I would add. And the last thing would be looking back, is there anything you would have done differently?
Um I think I would have tried more. Maybe there was some time where I did not. So yeah, apart from the points that I did, but I would have done maybe yeah during the undergrad I would have taken more chances and yeah met like yeah I could have tried more things I think which I did not. After college I certainly did a lot I know, but yeah,
Yeah, I think that's something everyone thinks about, to be honest. But I believe like college is what it is. No one has that perspective then. So
yes,
definitely. And with that, that's about it. You went through with our one word challenge on a Sunday. So thank you so much, Saurabh, for sharing your incredible story and insights with us today. Definitely, in terms of your journey did provide us a lot of insights, and I would like everyone again who's watching to put in their key learnings from today's session in the chat or in the comments later on. Would love to read through it, even post the session. And for me, to be honest, one of some of the key there were a lot of key learnings. One of the things that did stand out for me is your persistence towards the challenges, and how that has actually allowed you to learn 2x from what otherwise would be possible, or even for you to not be afraid of just going out there and putting yourself out there, not thinking about the outcomes, but actually the process, which is definitely really important. If For me, I believe if anyone does want to create their mark in the industry. So thank you so much for that. And anything sort of that you would like to add before we sign off today?
yeah. So thank you, Ivanshi. You have said a lot, quite the good words. So thank you for that. And yeah, it really, I'm quite really excited about how things are coming up. Specifically, the architecture civil industry that we have. Specifically, things are quite better now. We have a lot of more opportunities coming up. A lot of things being built, and as it seems, it is going to be like that for the coming decade. Specifically, with the growth that our country is facing. And certainly, with the kind of work that specifically is Novatr is doing, it is actually helping those new engineers being built. And certainly, it is going to help new people who are coming in the industry and make them help a better engineer. So I think, with that said, it was quite good to have that interaction with you. And yeah, thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thanks, Saurabh. Have a great weekend and to many more such discussions. Okay.
Yes.